Because it's obviously in their interest that there is this meeting between Harry and his father. But if you're the royal family, and I know this for a fact from talking to people close to them, right, there's a lot of wariness about this, right? They don't trust them, period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckhams now.
So Piers Morgan has just been pretty indiscreet in terms of the royal hatred towards the return of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who he says the royals absolutely do not trust. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are plotting to take Buckingham Palace. Surely we're not going to allow that to happen. Of course, the major news overnight that King Charles and Queen Camilla have confirmed that they will never live at the palace. Neither will Prince William and Catherine. So that is a historic moment, a historic end of what has been not only the centrepiece for British monarchy, but the home of our monarch since Queen Victoria.
3 words. That's all it took. They don't trust them. Piers Morgan didn't soften it, didn't qualify it, didn't leave himself an exit. He says he's been told this directly by people who actually sit inside the royal household. And according to him, the mood in that household right now is not warmth. It's suspicion. It's exhaustion. It's a family bracing itself. And the line that really cut through? Morgan claims that inside the palace, Prince Harry has become this generation's cautionary tale.
The issue here is trust, right? So obviously the king, as a father, would love to see his son, right? Obviously he would. He doesn't want to have this on. Charles really doesn't like confrontation.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't like everything to be chaotic and dramatic and combative. He would just like it to be calm so he can get on with doing a very good job, by the way, as our monarch, I think. And I think the trip to America was astonishingly successful and his greatest moment, actually, as a royal.
The son everyone privately compares to Brooklyn Beckham, the disappointment nobody quite knows how to talk about out loud. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why one of the most connected men in British media is convinced this isn't a homecoming. It's a countdown.
Prince Harry being welcomed back permanently to the UK within the royal fold, saying there are movements in that direction. And then, and this is when I was like, oh my God, this is why they've chosen an Australian who knows nothing about what's going on in the royal family, because she describes it as a logical next step. What? A logical next step to describing the British royal family as racist. I mean, this is nutty stuff.
So here's what's actually happening. After years of distance, talk of a Harry and Meghan visit to the UK, potentially with the children, has been building for months. Some commentators are calling it reconciliation. Others, including Piers Morgan, are calling it something far less flattering. Morgan says his information comes from people close to the family. And he's not just any commentator throwing around guesses. We'll get into exactly why his sources matter. But first, you need to understand the verdict he delivered, because it's blunter than almost anything said publicly about Harry in years. Piers Morgan's claim is simple, and it is brutal.
So I don't think it really, for him, he's like, well, obviously I'd like to see my son. But the problem is everyone around him is like, well, how do you trust him, sir? How do you trust this son of yours who every single time you see him in the last few years, everything gets leaked?
Well,
right? And then you add Meghan to the mix, who said she'd never come back to the country, who has spent years trashing our country.
He says that within the royal family, there is what he calls genuine weariness about Harry and Meghan potentially returning, and that trust, real trust, simply isn't there anymore. Not we're working on it, not it's complicated. His word was final. Period.
He wants to spend time with his wider family. That, of course, also includes the Spencers. So I think that however that can be made possible, which I think there is a scenario where Harry comes back in some way and spends a bit more of a permanent amount of time here, however that looks, I think this is all possible at this point. I think that there have been movements in that direction. How that all fits with the kids and Meghan, I'm not sure, but I think this is just the next logical step for him to actually be able to bring the kids back.
Now, this matters because of what it implies about everything that's been said publicly. For months, the public narrative, pushed largely through Sussex-aligned voices, has been one of softening, of nostalgia, of a door slowly opening. Morgan's claim flips that completely. If he's right, the door isn't opening. It's barely cracked, and everyone behind it is watching it nervously. But why would the royal family feel this way about their own son? That's where the comparison comes in. And it's the kind of line that sticks.
If he wants to reconcile with his son, he wants to see his grandchildren. That is very human. But at the same time, he has to think of the institution, and he just doesn't seem to be doing that. And it's just an absolute disaster and mess. And I think shows that I don't know if Charles is necessarily the leader of the moment here. I just don't think he's making good decisions when it comes to what the future of the monarchy should look like.
According to Morgan, inside the royal family, Harry has now spoken about the way the Beckham family is said to speak about Brooklyn. The son who, fairly or not, has become shorthand for entitlement and self-inflicted embarrassment. Morgan went further, saying he doesn't think anyone could currently be considered a worse son than Harry. Though he added, almost as a dark joke, that even Brooklyn Beckham might be relieved he's no longer holding that title alone.
If you're the royal family, and I know this for a fact from talking to people close to them, right, there's a lot of wariness about this, right? They don't trust them, period. They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckhams now, right? I don't think anyone could be a worse son than Harry. Brooklyn, I take my hat off to you, son.
It's a comparison, not a fact. Morgan's opinion, dressed up in a headline-ready line, but it lands because of a pattern he points to underneath it. He's also noted, somewhat darkly, that royal ruptures of this kind keep sharing one detail: an American woman at the center of the storm. Wallis Simpson decades ago. Meghan now. 3 for 3 in his words, if you count the wider pattern. It's a provocative observation. Clearly his opinion, not an established cause and effect, but it's part of why his comments cut through the noise rather than disappearing into it.
The spoilt brat entitled behaviour, and the common theme is to American women, but we'll come to that later. But in fact, you've had Wallis Simpson, they're 3 for 3. The issue here is trust, right? So obviously the king, as a father, would love to see his son, right?
So, if this is really how the family feels, the obvious question is, why would Morgan know that? And why should anyone outside the palace believe him?
Still allowing Harry and Meghan to drive the narrative all the time. They're always reacting to them rather than...
It is weakness. I'm sorry, it is.
It is. It is. There's no other way to put it. He's being weak here. He's allowing them to drive everything, and then he reacts.
This is the part people often skip past. And it's the most important part of the whole story. Piers Morgan isn't simply speculating from a TV studio. He has a documented public friendship with Queen Camilla. He's known to be close with Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and was recently photographed socially with Beatrice's husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi.
Now, let me just contextualise a little bit about why we do have to take Piers Morgan seriously on this, even though I'm no major fan of the guy. He's friends with Queen Camilla. He talks to Queen Camilla. He's friends with the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, and just a few weeks ago was pictured partying with Edo, Beatrice's hubby. And that's a whole other story, but she was there too.
None of that makes Morgan automatically correct. He has his own history with Harry and Meghan, and his critics will say that history colors everything he says about them. That's a fair point, and it should sit alongside everything else in this video. But it does mean that when he says he's hearing this weariness directly from people inside the family's orbit, it's not coming from nowhere. It's coming from rooms most journalists never get access to. And that's exactly why his next claim is the one that should worry Harry and Meghan the most.
If it's one of my kids, obviously you would want to end the problem. You'd want to bring them back in the fold. The problem is, how do you trust these two?
Yeah.
Right? And, they're going to bring the kids that they keep preaching to the world about privacy and how to protect kids online. Meantime, she's out there pumping week after week more and more pictures of their kids. So there's an absolute hypocrisy there, which I find, honestly, frankly, quite sickening.
Morgan's argument isn't just they don't like Meghan. It's something more specific and, frankly, more damning for Harry. He's pointed to a pattern where, according to him, every time the family lets Harry back into anything even slightly private, details end up in the press soon after. That, he argues, is the real wound. Not old arguments, but an ongoing, practical fear that openness simply isn't safe anymore. If that's even partly true, it reframes the entire idea of a reconciliation visit. It's not just about old hurt feelings. It's about whether the family can function around someone they no longer trust to keep anything between them.
It's like, how dare you preach to us about privacy and protecting kids online, and then the next day go and put on Instagram pictures of your young kids to purely promote your brand as the rival renegade royal family. I just go back to They stuck it to the royals at the royals' most vulnerable time. I mean, you and I have covered the royals for longer than we care to admit, but decades, right? But the idea they did this as Philip was dying, as the Queen was dying, and they were just trashing the royals week in, week out, trashing the monarchy as an institution, all of it.
And according to other reporting echoed in the same conversations Morgan's been part of, there's a second motive being floated for this trip. One that has nothing to do with healing old wounds at all. Alongside Morgan's comments, there's a claim, again, reported as concern from people close to the royals rather than confirmed fact, that Meghan's business ventures have been struggling and that a high-profile UK visit would generate exactly the kind of global press attention her brand has reportedly lost. Morgan has been blunt about it. Desperate, he suggests, and dangerous in equal measure. It's worth saying clearly. This is opinion and reported concern, not a confirmed motive.
I mean, Dan, when you look at this whole situation, it's just absolute chaos. And that just embodies everything about Harry and Meghan. Since she walked into Harry's life, it has been nothing but absolute chaos and toxicity. And I don't think the royals want that. I genuinely think they all sort of want to get along. Yes, they have their spats from time to time. Any family or group does. But they want to move together in harmony. And Harry and Meghan are the antithesis of that. So there is no point in bringing them back into this nonsense. There's just absolutely no point.
Nobody can prove what's driving the trip. But it's notable that separate commentators, working from separate sources, keep arriving at the same theory. That the timing of this visit lines up suspiciously well with reports of stalled deals and quiet business setbacks since the couple left their original media partnerships. And if you want a real example of how badly a story can unravel when something is dressed up as one thing and turns out to be another, wait until you hear what happened with a single donation that was supposed to make Harry look generous.
Prince Harry to give that much of their personal wealth to anything that's not Cartier. So there's no doubt in my mind that that was not money from Harry and Meghan's personal account, but it was so reported in that way. And of course it was spin. It was propaganda. It was direct misinformation by Harry and Meghan and their team. And it was meant there to make Harry look good. Oh, he's going back to the UK. Oh, look, he's giving all this money.
Here's a story that, on its own, deserves a video. A donation worth just over £1 million was reported at the time as a personal act of generosity from Harry to a children's charity. Good headline, good timing, right when public opinion toward him needed warming up. The problem is what came after. According to journalist Lauren Slay, public charity records show the money was actually transferred through a foundation, not paid personally. And when a national broadcaster was asked directly whether the donation had come from Harry himself, the answer given was reportedly yes. That answer, critics argue, simply doesn't match the paper trail.
A £1.1 million donation sold to the British public and to our friends around the world and in the Commonwealth and beyond as personal generosity. It was not. The BBC chose to confirm it, but here's what they already knew. They would have had to have known. The Glenn Begg Foundation transfer to BBC Children in Need was logged at the Charity Commission on the 10th of October 2025. That is a public record. It had been sitting there for 5 months by the time I asked my question.
To be clear, this is a contested claim, built on public filings and one journalist's account of an email exchange. Not a court-tested fact, but it's exactly the kind of story that feeds the broader argument Morgan and others are making. That image management, not honesty, keeps showing up at the center of Harry's public moves. And it's part of a wider pattern, because Harry's charitable record has taken other hits too, including a legal dispute with Sentebale, the charity he co-founded, and the loss of a partnership with a conservation organization after a foreign government raised concerns about its conduct. The man rebuilding his image through good works is now fighting his own good works in public. So, if trust is the real issue, not love, not family, but trust, what happens to the people the royals can't simply shut the door on because they're children?
The BBC received that money. They processed it. They held the documentation showing exactly which entity the funds came from. And when I asked them directly whether it came from Harry personally or via a third party, they told me it was personal. They are telling porcupines.
This is where Piers Morgan's commentary turns from personal to institutional. He's been vocal that Harry and Meghan shouldn't be allowed to use royal titles while running international ventures with no active royal duties attached.
Meghan will do in London will we see things like the appearance on MasterChef in Australia.
Do you think
it's
she'll
just
do
bizarre,
PR? Do you think she will come and start Channel 8?
She'll do whatever it takes to promote herself using the royal family as a PR tool. And I know from speaking to people around the royals, they're very concerned about this.
Royal commentator Robert Jobson has made a related point publicly, that there is an existing mechanism for removing titles, and that using royal status for personal business without doing royal work raises a legitimate question about why that status should remain. It's a debate the institution has faced before. The late Queen's own position throughout the original Meg-Sit arrangement was that there's no in-between. You're either a working royal or you're not, and you don't get to use the title only when it's useful.
Now, if you can have one memory, it stays with you for the rest of your life. And I think that's probably, that hug with their grandfather is terribly important, particularly as they haven't got Diana there, their grandmother. And I think that sort of thing is rises above all of the theatre.
Well, they've got estrangement on both sides with the grandparents.
Well, they have, and that's the other thing I was just about to mention is. But if they're desperate for that hug from a grandfather, they've got one down the road who's called Thomas Markle, who's never met them. What did he do so wrong?
Morgan and Jobson are essentially arguing that line has never really been enforced, and that this upcoming visit is the moment it should be. But while Morgan's camp is painting this as overdue accountability, a very different version of the story has been playing out elsewhere. One that, according to Morgan, is pure spin.
They chose to go and live in California. Go to Montecito, have your lovely life, right? And that's fine. Leave us alone.
Yeah.
Right? You made it clear you hate this country, you hate the monarchy, you hate your royal family, right? She can't even see her dad who lives 50 miles away. He's never seen the kids. Right? I mean, they preach about compassion and empathy and all this stuff. It's complete horseshit, right? Where's the compassion for the father who made a few dumb mistakes early on, right? Because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. But he lives 50, 60 miles away.
On the other side of this debate sit voices like Bronte Coy and Katie Nicholl, who have offered a far gentler read of events, describing a UK return as a natural next step, framing Harry's mood as nostalgia rather than resentment, and suggesting the family dynamic has quietly thawed.
Let's just give Harry the benefit of the doubt. Just for now, let's assume that he wants to come here to have that reconciliation with his father. Also, Bronte, you have given us information that it's not just about wanting reconciliation with the king, but he wants to see the other side of his family.
Of course. And look, as I said, that they've been very tight-lipped, the Sussex camp, on the exact plans because of security.
One claim that's drawn particular skepticism, a report of a previously unseen, deeply personal photo of the late Queen with Lilibet, described secondhand by someone who reportedly witnessed the moment. Morgan's camp dismisses this almost entirely, and their reasoning is worth hearing. If a warm, private photo of the Queen and Lilibet truly existed, critics ask, why has it never surfaced, not even once, in all the years since the Queen's death, when literally any positive royal image would have been a publicity win for the Sussexes? It's a fair question, and right now, it remains unanswered.
That according to people who witnessed Lilibet and the Queen together, who she has directly spoken to, well, come on, who were those people? Harry and Meghan. Like, who else witnessed that interaction? And she says there was a lovely bond, just a lovely bond that we've never heard about before from the real Lilibet and the fake Lilibet. Watch.
Nobody outside that room knows for certain what happened. What we do know is that this single claim has become a flashpoint for a much bigger argument. Who gets believed in this story and why? That argument over trust doesn't stop with the press. It extends to someone almost nobody is talking about. While all this plays out over one aging grandfather in Britain, there's another one sitting quietly in America that almost nobody mentions, Thomas Markle. Reporting from biographer Tom Bauer lays out an uncomfortable detail, that Thomas Markle paid for his daughter's education and continued supporting her financially well into adulthood.
So why should they have the titles, the children as well, Prince and Princess? It's a load of old nonsense. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex...
I thought they weren't going to use their titles,
They're
the
not
children.
supposed to use the titles. That's what they agree.
Oh, she'll be using all the titles.
That's what they agree. But the fact is that they're going to come here. It's going to be turned into a circus. No matter what anybody says, it will be the big the big moment. The king has had a gun held to his head. Effectively, they've said, we're coming over. All the leaks have come out to say they're coming over with the kids. Therefore, what does he do? He says, OK, you can use the palace if you give enough notice. But ultimately, how long will he spend with them? No more than half an hour if it happens. Will Camilla be there? Absolutely not. Will William be there? Absolutely not. Will they meet their cousins? No, they won't. So how much has been repaired here? Nothing.
Since the rift began, by most public accounts, he has never met Archie, never met Lilibet, and has never met Harry at all. He's reportedly dealt with serious health issues, including losing part of a leg, largely without contact from his daughter. That detail sharpens the entire aging grandfather justification being used for this trip. If the argument is that children deserve time with a grandparent who may not have long left, critics are asking the obvious question. Why does that logic only apply to the side of the family with a palace attached to it? This isn't about picking a side in someone's family pain. Nobody outside that relationship knows the full story, but it is a detail that keeps surfacing in the trust argument Morgan has been building from the very start. And it leads to the one relationship even Morgan agrees may never be repaired.
Bronte's story as well is like, well, Harry and Meghan, they don't know what else to do, so they're just going to come back to the UK and be working royals. I mean, at least they're acknowledging, I guess, in their own propaganda how much they failed, so that's one thing. But this is not how royalty works. You can't just walk back in when you tried something else and it failed miserably. You left.
Several royal sources, separate from Morgan's, have reported that Harry has reached out to Prince William multiple times since the rift and received no response. If accurate, that silence may be the most telling detail in this entire story, because it suggests the deepest damage isn't between Harry and the institution. It's between two brothers. Put that alongside Morgan's prediction for how this visit actually plays out. A short, possibly 30-minute meeting with King Charles, the children perhaps included, but no Camilla, no William, and no cousins. If that prediction holds, the maths is brutal. A high-profile trip, a wall of cameras, and, by his account, almost nothing actually repaired underneath it. So strip away the headlines, the staged photos, and the competing versions of events, and you're left with one question Piers Morgan keeps returning to, over and over. Not whether Harry and Meghan want to come home, but whether anyone left in that family still trusts them enough to let them. Morgan says the answer, right now, is no. Tom Bower says the real driver isn't love, it's money. The Sussex camp says it's healing. The truth is probably some uncomfortable mix of all three, and we may not know which one wins until the cameras are actually rolling outside that palace gate. What do you think? Is this a genuine attempt at reconciliation or a calculated business move dressed up as one? Let me know in the comments, and if you want the full story behind any of the claims in this video, the next one's on screen right now.